Hello, everybody. Today I'm speaking to Stephen Moore in the beautiful Peterhead in Scotland. It's a beautiful day outside. The sun is shining. It's not happening often. Stephen,
Sava, how are you? Good to
I'm
be with
doing
you.
good. Happy to see you today, man.
Good stuff.
How's life?
Life is very good. Yep, it's good. The sun's shining today, so it's a nice day, as you said. So it's a good day today.
Listen, I wanted to talk to you from last year.
Okay.
Uh, I saw you speaking in church about twice in our local church, and I saw you being a man of conviction. So you seem to believe in things. You seem to have a sense of how things should be, and that's a good thing. And I wondered, how did you become the man you are today? So I would really love to tell me a little bit about your journey, and then I'm really interested. How does a boy become a man?
Okay. Yep. Yep. So where to begin, really? So now I live in Peterhead now, but before I lived born and bred 84 miles up the coast, just some 9 miles from Lossiemouth, a small fishing village in the north of Scotland. And they are born into a Christian family and a fishing family as well, and came through the whole of my early life was in Burghead, and then we went to primary school, secondary school in Lossiemouth because the village was so small. You had to bus back and forth. So we bus back and forth for the secondary education, and then once education time was over, I chose a career in the Royal Navy. And
See that? I didn't know that. I looked on your Facebook page. I didn't know you were in the Navy.
Okay, yep.
And you're not a very old guy. I mean, for how long did you work in?
So joined the Royal Navy when I was 17.
Okay.
Just young and fresh, and done just under 12 years. I think it was 11 and a half years at the time.
Okay. Is that a set time you have to do, or
after you'd done the first 3 years, you could leave. You gave 1 year's notice to leave.
Okay.
But I enjoyed it. It was good. I was young, free, single at the time, so it was a great chance to get. And then once I met who's my wife now, things sort of changed towards the end of that 11 years, and then that's when I decided to leave.
Did you decide to leave because you wanted to get married, or you just wanted to leave anyway?
I'll be honest, the Navy and I think the forces in general at that time anyway was really a single man's game.
Okay.
So my longest stint away was just over 10 months and 3 days away at sea. So it's a long time.
Yeah.
To be in a relationship with your wife or partner at the time, I think it's unfair, really. So I left once we knew we were going to be married. I left. I left the Royal Navy then.
Was it a good decision?
The best decision. The best decision I ever made, really. It was good while it lasted, but it ran its course. And as I say, it was really, for me, it was like a single man's game. It would not have worked had I had been married with children and been away for that length of time.
Listen, I have been in a national service in Romania.
Okay.
So in Romania at the time, I'm talking about at the end of the 80s. And it was still in the communist times, and the national service was compulsory.
Okay.
So I was the last generation who did about 1 year and 4 months before the revolution came at the end of my national service. So I finished in January 1990 when the communist government was overthrown. So I came out. So I went in a communist and I came out a free man. Okay, but the point I'm trying to make is this: I didn't find, well, at the time, I didn't find that the national service helped me at all in becoming a man.
Okay.
But because, well, Ceausescu, the communist president at the time, used the army a lot in cheap labor. So she would do a lot of agricultural work with the soldiers, and then some building. They were doing once, I remember in the 80s, a channel to connect the Danube to the Black Sea. for navigation, and then he did the People's House in Bucharest, which now houses the House of became the House of Parliament. So there a lot of soldiers worked as well. So he was soldiers for cheap labor. So at the time I thought it was a waste of time. How did army or your time in army helped you, or if it helped you at all, to become a man, or it added to you? Or
so I was only 17 when I joined the Navy, so I was young and fresh.
Okay.
I just came from home,
Mm-hmm.
straight into military training. And within that first 7 or 8 weeks is classed as basic training,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where they weed out the ones who want to be there, who don't want to be there.
Okay,
So,
separated the wheat from the chaff.
yeah,
Huh?
that's the one. That's the one. So but within the first 5 or 6 weeks, you sort of knew if you were going to make it to the end, to the end of the 8 weeks, because they already had in the first few days, you maybe half the class. So the intake that they take in within the first few days, the intake had halved because guys just couldn't handle the pace.
Yeah.
Of what was expected and what was going on around them, because that was physical fitness, uniform preparation, lack of sleep, just everything to try and mold you the way that they wanted you to be. And then by the end of the 8 weeks, they had the finished product that they wanted. And I think that's kind of just kept me on good stead ever since those first 8 weeks. So from 17 to now, the things you learn in that first 8 weeks, I'm still doing now.
Okay.
And there's lots of things. I mean, if
just name a few things that's really stuck with you and you're still practicing now.
So, for example, it's quite a funny one. So, if we have in our house, everyone has the most spotless clean shoes, whether it's trainers or shoes or school shoes. That was a big one in the forces, for your shoes to be spotless clean. So, if your trainers have to be white, the trainers are white.
Exactly.
And I remember just when we...
Oh, you are my man. I'm telling you, I love it.
I just remember when we newly got married, your kit, your shirts had to be precisely ironed. Your creases had to be at a peak, so you could see the press marks in it. And I remember one of the first few weeks being married, saying to Louise, my wife, I think I'll just iron these shirts again if that's okay. And she never really appreciated that at the time, but
I bet
she's learned to accept it a little bit now. So, but there's I could list a few things that still stick with us now. But those are two ones that are in the family home that I've just mentioned just now. The trainers and the ironing as big ones.
Would you say discipline?
I would think so. Yep. You very quickly became aware of what was right and what was wrong, and what was allowed and what was not allowed, what was accepted and what was not accepted.
Following the rules.
Following the rules. Yep. And these rules were hammered home pretty tight within the first few days of the basic training in the Navy, because, as I say, they wanted to weed out the good for the bad to get the end product. And discipline was a big one. Military bearing was a big one, and just the way that you conducted yourself. Like you were told once, and once was enough. So, and these kind of things have just kind of stuck by me ever since.
It's interesting because I'm one that believes that rules are to be broken.
Okay.
Rebel. Okay. Somewhat of a rebel, yes, but I do understand that we need rules in order to function. So every organization, family, anything that is going to make it would need some kind of rules. We're living in a generation that we are discarding rules. We are trying to do away with who says that I have to do this. Now I do understand that some of the rules can be challenged, and some of the rules that don't make sense or are there for the sake of the rule. So I do understand that on one hand, but put that aside for the moment. But we do need rules, we do need boundaries, we do need limits. Otherwise, I've realized that left to our own devices, society goes down the drains, goes down the rabbit hole, loses itself, disintegrates.
Definitely.
So what do you say about rules or rules enforcing?
So how to enforce rules?
Well, what do you say about it? Do we need them, or we do away with them?
No, I think we do need guidelines. I think we need moral guidelines. I think we need spiritual guidelines. I think there has to be guidelines of life, because if we don't, I mean, the world at the moment is pretty broken.
Okay.
Because people are so easily offended. They can do what they want. They can say what they want. They can be who they want. And to a degree, that's acceptable. But to a degree, it's not. And that's personally why I think the world is now on its knees and in the mess that we're in now. Because guidelines, maybe in some cases, guidelines have never been established. But in some cases, the guidelines have just gone with the wind and just letting people have a free rein to do and say what they want.
Well, on one hand, I agree with you. On the other hand, I don't, because guidelines and rules have been established from a long time ago. We've been given boundaries.
Yep.
I give you one example: 10 Commandments.
Okay.
Boundaries. So what? Moses, a few thousand years before Christ, 4,000 years before Christ. I'm not a theologian, but I'm just throwing it out there. Yeah. So there are boundaries. And those boundaries, actually, the 10 Commandments, are for the well-being of society and for the society to function in a balanced way as a whole. And then, so that's one set of boundaries.
Yep.
You know, the Western society, it's based on the Judeo-Christian values, which involves the 10 Commandments. So at the bottom, within every fiber of societal rule and law or guideline, there are the 10 Commandments, or there is the Judeo-Christian values. Yeah. So we have them, but we don't want them. And you said something that there is a fine line between what's acceptable and what is not.
Yep.
Where is that fine line for you?
For me, where the fine line would be, I think it boils back to what's right and what's wrong. So in my mind, the way that I've been brought up, I think there's been nothing wrong with the way that I've been brought up.
Okay.
Because I think it was based on fairly strict moral Christian values, as you've said. But now let's fast forward to 2024.
Okay.
I could probably go to school and ask a second year class the 10 Commandments, and you would be, the chance of them being able to name 3 or 4 would probably be pretty slim. So although we've maybe been founded on the biblical aspect of the 10 Commandments, I think it's gone. I think society's allowed it to go.
Okay.
Not disappear altogether, but I just believe that it's not visible now.
Why do you think is that?
Why do I think that is? Because I just feel that people want to do and say what they want. Nobody wants to be held account for anything. So right now I'm going back to a time as a boy. I'm thinking just now, I remember on a Sunday for us, a Sunday would have been church, Sunday school. And then in the Sunday afternoon would have been very little, there wouldn't have been much happening. I remember some of my friends being able to go and do pier jumping or out on our bikes on a Sunday. And that just, for us, that just wasn't allowed. There was a rule that we just never done that on a Sunday. So go back to the 10 Commandments.
Was it because was some kind of a sabbatical rest or something, or you don't do the stuff you do through the week on a Sunday?
Well, you had 6 days through the week to go pier jumping.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
So my folk just was like, well, no, Sunday.
Okay.
We just didn't do that on a Sunday. And to be honest, now with my own children, we've came to a point as well where, okay, we've relaxed that rule a little, but there's still things that we just wouldn't do on a Sunday in our house.
Like?
Our girls are into, like, there's many clubs we go to through the week, but we would try and steer clear of the clubs on a Sunday. We would try and steer clear of just things that could be done on a Saturday afternoon rather than waiting for a Sunday to do it.
So what do you do on a Sunday now?
So for us, our Sunday routine would be, if Louise and I both work shift, me and my wife both are shift workers. So if we're off shift on a Sunday, church in the morning, and then some kind of family time in the afternoon, and then ramping up for the week ahead on the Sunday night.
Have lunch together?
Lunch together, yep, and maybe even try and get some friends involved as well, or even some family as well, socialise a bit.
I think we are losing that a little bit, But well, I don't know, because we always had Sunday lunch together with our family, with my mom. in Romania, and here we're trying to galvanize people around Sunday lunch. Family, like what's the day? Monday. Yesterday we had the girls' grandchildren, and some extended family, for lunch, and that's fantastic. That's important. Keeps family together. Family is important. Yeah. So Sunday rules, enforcing them. We don't want to do what others tells us to do. We only want to do what we want to do. Do you think that's actually the problem, that we just want to do what we want to do and not be accountable to anybody?
I think for a major part of society, yes, because I think everyone thinks that they're their own free person and they can do and say what they want. And I've already said, to a degree they can do that, but. And I just think it's gone too far. I think governments allowed it, schools have allowed it, workplaces allowed it. It's just, we've allowed it to happen. The church has allowed it to happen. And the problem is, once it goes so far, it's very, very hard to try and pull that back. Yep, I just think.
You mentioned church. So church, in which way do you think church has allowed this to happen?
What, the rules?
Yes.
Being slack. So, I mean, so the aim of the church is to be a beacon and to be a light in the community.
Okay.
Yep, I think we would agree on that, yeah.
Okay, so that's the role of the church, you think, yeah? In which way that translates, in practice? So the church is a beacon and a light. Okay, practically, what does that mean?
To become involved, and I think it's so important that the church that opens the door to get people in, because to seek and to save the lost is the goal. Yep, I think we'd agree with that as well.
Yeah.
But so it's okay pulling everyone in. So it's great to have everyone coming in. But I think the church needs to almost revise some of the standards and say, it's come in, but the world stays at the door. Because once the world comes in and soaks in through the church, again, very, very hard to try and remove it. Because then we start getting, I am not speaking about any church in particular, but then we start getting watered down sermons. We start compromising what the word actually says. And then once we start going down that road to try and pull back for that.
So you're telling me that the church is not doing what they should be doing?
I think, yep, I would stand with that, yep.
I had a discussion with a friend of mine, a bishop in Romania, about about the role of the church in society. And I asked him this question: what do you think is the role of the church in society? And he said, to lead by example.
Yep.
But you know what? He continued and said, we're not doing that. So we should be leading by example. You can't ask others to do what you're not doing.
Yep.
So we are not doing that. And then we are not even upholding the things we say that we believe. That's what he said. I've reflected on that for a long time. Well, I had a discussion with him last year. So for the last 5 or 6 months, I've been thinking about it. What is the role of the church? And he said, morality.
Okay.
To teach morality. Because this question, you see, and I asked this question, many people, where do you learn morality from? To do the difference between right and wrong, to do the right thing, So some people say we learn it in school. Some people say we learn it at home with the family. Some people say it, we learn it at university, in church. Okay, but then the question is, where does your mom and dad learn it from? Or the teachers, where do they learn it from in school? Because there must be, where do they get it from? And so eventually, so eventually it boiled down, it's from the church and then from God. God says certain things, that are good, and we should be smart enough to agree with him. So whenever we and then when you agree, you see, this is another thing. We say we believe in God, but you will know them by their fruit. Not everybody who says that believes in God believes in God, because this is something. It is. I found this in the New Testament, in the book, in the Gospel of John, and Jesus says something like this: Whoever obeys my commandment, whoever does what I tell him to do is my friend, and whoever doesn't is not my friend. Man, that really brought chills down my spine, because there are times I don't obey him. There are times I don't do what he commanded me to do. I don't follow his teachings in full, I fail. And so in that moment, I'm not the friend of Jesus in that moment. So I have moments where I'm not his friend. And then I have moments when I'm his friend. So, but get back. So this is a very chilling, hard truth to swallow, because we are in church and we are happy and everything is going well. But then if we don't lead the society by example, they are looking at us. You are right saying we should be a beacon of light. But that involves leading by example. And then we are not doing that. I'm not putting everybody in the same boat.
Sure. Yep.
Generally speaking, of course, there are people who lead, of course, but generally speaking, maybe, are we not doing that? It's not easy.
It's not an easy question, no. But I think God knows the heart of the man. Yep. So of what you're saying, you're not obeying every single thing. I think he knows everybody's hearts individually. Yeah.
Yes.
And I think there can be times when we think we're trying our best. For example, for me, taking the children, making it a priority on a Sunday morning to be going to the church on a Sunday as a family. I think that what I'm passing on to my children through that one thing alone. I mean, there's a lot more to it at home as well. But that on a Sunday morning, making that a priority for us to be up, to be ready, to go, to be there, regardless if it's snow, sun, or whatever. That's what we do on a Sunday.
This is what you're trying to drill into your kids.
Yeah, but I don't even
it's a value.
Yeah, but it's a value to have.
Yes,
because that's something that stuck with me forever. And then we need to then pull on that relationship to sort of tighten it up to make it look like what it is today. And it can be tough. It can be tough. And I know that we all fail. Everybody fails. And with our walk with God. But there's always a but. But I think he's so aware of your heart and the environment that we're in, and it can be tough.
What do you mean by heart? What God is aware of your heart? What do you mean by that?
So we're in this world, but not of it.
And I know, but is he aware of your intentions? So basically, like, is he aware of your intention of doing good, and sometimes you fail? What do you mean by the heart?
Yep. So just exactly what you said there. So there could be good intentions, and I am not saying we're going to fall big temptations and do awful things. But like you're saying, sometimes you'll slip up as well.
Oh, definitely.
But I think God's just I think he's an all-loving God. I think he's just so aware of the environment that we're in just now. I mean, the world has never been so broken as it is in this last 2 or 3 years. Yeah.
Well, God is so loving. Just let me take you on that. God is so loving. Are we not abusing that? In the sense of he's so loving, and that it's a license for us to do whatever we want because he's so loving and he should accept us the way we are. It's been drilled in us. God is loving. God is merciful. God's grace. I've been thinking about this lately. God's grace. I mean, I think we've abused the term and the idea of, because the grace of God means unmerited favor. So he's done something for you in terms of his son died on the cross. We are going to celebrate Easter in a few Sundays, yeah? Jesus died on the cross for you and me in our place. To what? To save, what's the word I'm looking for? to make us one with God again. Yeah.
Yep.
So, but that's so the salvation of your soul through His grace. It's an unmerited favor. It's a gift. Yeah. But then we abuse that gift because, well, if it is not merited, I may as well. I cannot do anything to merit. You know.
Yep. So I can only speak for me.
Okay.
I cannot
Yeah.
speak for MD in a whole. I couldn't even speak for my wife on this one. But for me, I think we're really trying our best.
Mhm.
We're really trying our best to live by the standards that is expected,
Mhm.
and it's Bible standards.
Yes.
And to fall so far away from there to not be able to recognize it is it is a big fall.
Mhm.
And I think for as much as we try, we're never going to get it right all the time.
No.
And regardless what rules are in place or regardless where we are or where we are on a Sunday, I think God can see a trying heart.
Mhm.
And I think we'll fail him and we'll disappoint him at times. But for me, he still loves us.
Of course. Of
And
course.
that's where we're driving to be.
Let me go back to the idea that you are drilling in your girls. Probably drilling. It's not a very good word. It's quite like rough. You are trying to instill this value of going to church on Sunday.
Yeah.
I spoke to a guy, just my last podcast, to a guy from Wales.
Okay.
He was traumatized by that, man. He says, Sunday morning, when I heard, Adam, Sunday morning, church time, man, been traumatized by it. I grew up, he says, I went to a Christian school 5-6 days a week, Sunday to church. I'm fed up, man. I lost, what was the word he used? I hated my Christian upbringing.
Okay.
Now that's something I hated when my mom used to wake me up Sunday morning to go to church. But then kids are kids. So should parents, because parents know best. Okay, parents know better than the kids.
Yep.
They know in teaching them that that's good for them, regardless of how the child feels about it.
Mhm.
The child doesn't get to have a say in what the parent wants to teach him.
Yep, I agree with that. Yeah.
Regardless of what he feels. I don't want to, I don't like it, I don't know it's good for you, you're gonna go. So do you think parents are more, what's the word, lenient or weak or not enforcing, not actually educating their kids?
So for me to answer that, I would say if I was to rewind back to when I was a kid, the way that my folks were with me, stood with me right up until I'm 38 now,
Mm-hmm.
and they stood with me all this time.
Mm-hmm.
So fast forward to now, for my girls, the moment my wife and I have total control over that children just now.
Okay.
So there's 3 girls in the house. There's Louise and the 3 girls and myself.
Mm-hmm.
And at the moment we have absolute total control in everything that they do, from the clothes they wear to what they eat, to what they view online, to what they watch, to when homework's done, to how well it's done, to the time they leave the house to go to school. We have got control on every single thing that they do because they rely on us for
How old
everything
are
at the
they?
moment. So we have Sophie, who is 9, Emily, who is 7, and Lucy, who is 3.
I saw pictures with them on Facebook. Beautiful girls, man.
Yep. So
They've done good.
Yep. No more. That's it. 3. That's it. That's all.
Yeah.
Done.
Total control.
Total control on the children in the home just now. So if we're saying that there comes a point where you'll listen to everything the children say, but as you say, we come to a point where, well, I'm in charge, so this is what's happening. This is what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So whether you don't want to go to Sunday school today, we're going.
Exactly.
But it was quite important for us as parents to gather a network within the church to make the children want to go.
Okay.
So, for example, Sunday school.
Mm-hmm.
It's in our local church that we're in. Sunday school is a big part of the church. Well supported, and for the children, it's they want to go. they want to go to Sunday school because they see their friends. I think that's a big one as well. If there was no friend network with the children in the church, it's going to be a struggle, or as we would say in Scotland, a chav, get the children to go to church. But because they've got a friendship network there, it makes it easier. And because our children have been in our local church since literally 2 days after they were born, we've been there for 10 and a half years now. So that's all the children is known. And if they look back in 20, 30 years and say that that's something that their mum and dad installed in them and they've still got it in 20 or 30 years, I'll be happy with that.
So community is very important.
Very.
And it's the job of the parents to make sure that's being created, and it's your job to make it happen.
At the age that my children's at just now, without a doubt, yeah.
So when do you think would be right for them to make their own decisions? To decide where do they go, what clothes to wear, what they listen to. As a parent, eventually you would have to let that happen.
I think if you was to ask
at 30,
I think easy. If you was to ask the dad of 3 boys that question, I think he would answer differently to what a dad of 3 girls would answer. But I see already now Sophie's 9, and even though I say we've got total control, we are starting to cut some slack in little bits just now. So a lot of her friend network would have a mobile phone. Now she doesn't, because we just think 9 is just young enough for a mobile phone. But the time will come very soon where we'll give way to that, and she'll get the mobile phone. But in regards to clothing and that, the girls are they'll give you their opinion now if they like it or not.
Okay.
But sometimes their mummy is quite adamant that you will be wearing that bow.
Strong woman.
Or you are wearing that. Oh, very. That you will be wearing that bow or that headband or that type of clothing.
Okay.
But we could see already with Sophie becoming 9, soon to be 10, there is some slack being cut. But maybe back to basics. While they're under my roof, we'll have plenty of control.
What do you think is an appropriate age then? Because your oldest is 9 and is growing. So you say not mobile phone yet, which will be a smartphone, by the way.
Yep.
Which is a very powerful tool.
Yep.
More powerful than the computers. Probably my first laptop I had 20 years ago.
Yep.
Easy.
Yep.
Exactly. So what do you think would be an appropriate age for your eldest to get a mobile phone?
Well, we have a birthday coming up soon in the next couple of weeks, and that's probably top of the list at the moment, to be honest. So it will happen very soon. But with time has come a greater understanding and knowledge for us as parents with the social media tech era that we're in now. There is so much restrictions that we can put on the phone and put on that tablet or that device that they have that we can almost mirror it to my phone. So I can see exactly what's happening.
Are you quite technological, so you understand how it works?
Yeah.
Okay, so then let me move on then. So what do you think is an appropriate age then for your eldest, for your girls, to get, an Instagram account or a TikTok account or a Facebook account? Because Insta and TikTok is like now it's happening for the kids.
It's the thing.
Facebook is for old people.
Yeah. So I've managed to steer clear of Instagram. I only have Facebook for me. But already Sophie is going to be 10, and she is already asking for TikTok, Instagram. So they're so aware of it at that age, and I can't put a time or an age on it. Yep. It's a difficult time for parents just now.
Oh man! A few years ago, I was at a family conference in Romania, and they were talking about what would be an appropriate time to talk to your children, boys and girls, to talk to your children about sexual issues.
Mm-hmm.
So pastors' wives and pastors of different backgrounds, they would come and they would say, when she was 15, started to talk about, and they threw ages which were like 16, 15, 16, so I'm thinking, wow. So I get a chance to speak and ask them a question. what age were they when you gave them a smartphone? Oh, they had a smartphone. They were 12 or 11 or 12. I said, you see, the moment you give them a smartphone, you start talking to them about sexual issues.
Mhm.
They will know before you about anything. And when you start to teach them about something, they will tell you how things are.
Yep. Yep.
Because they would be in front of you, ahead of you with many things. Because you can't, curiosity killed the cat.
Sure.
And curiosity almost killed me. So we are curious. Out of nature, we are curious beings.
Mhm.
So we are trying to push boundaries. I found that in my life.
Yeah.
So they will push boundaries. They will, well, anybody, so they are more like you than different.
Yeah.
So that was something, and everybody was quiet at that conference. I said, I mean, what are you thinking? You give them a phone, you got to, so this is the tough nut to crack, because your mind tells you that they are too young to talk about certain things.
Mhm.
I mean, but then that's what your mind, you think, or what, is it your mind? Something tells you, but then reality is not like that. Reality is that we were in school and we're talking about the things that my mom tried to tell me when I came home from the national service. I'm talking about 30 some years ago. Yeah. I said, Mom, we talked about this. I mean, when we were in the primary 5 or 4 or something,
I can imagine. Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you know what I mean? So the chances for you as a parent to be left behind are great.
Yep. I would agree with that. Yeah. Yep.
And it's really terrifying as well.
It can be. Yeah. If you allow it to be, I suppose. Yep. It could be quite terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I have to ask you this question. So you are married.
Yep.
You have a beautiful wife. You have 3 beautiful kids. What makes a good father to 3 daughters? Because you said boys are different, I guess. Yeah.
So again, if you could probably set a panel of 10 guys here,
Okay.
and we could all give different answers. But what makes a good dad to 3 girls? I think being able to, might sound quite hard, but being able to say no, being able to say no.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everyone wants to give their kids or their children everything that they can,
Mm-hmm.
but there comes a point where you'll get it, but not just now.
Mm-hmm.
You can have it, but not just now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think just being there and being around and being active in the family is so important, and to demonstrate what the family unit should look like to the children, I think hopefully in years to come will pay dividends to the way Louise and I demonstrate ourselves to the children will in years pay dividends to them and hopefully their family.
I totally agree with that, man, because kids mirror you.
Because if they don't see that in the home, where are they going to see it? Because if I didn't pour out or bestow the family values that I have,
you lead by example.
Someone else is going to tell them everything.
Exactly. You lead by example. Yeah. That's not easy.
Not when you've got 6 little eyes looking at you on every move that you make.
I know, and they will mirror you. They will copy you. Kids copy what parents do. Yep. They don't do what you tell them to do. Yep. They will copy you. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they do.
They do. Oh yeah. They copy. They imitate you. They say what you say, and all that stuff. So that's a good dad to say no. Okay. That's interesting.
And that doesn't make you popular all the time.
No.
Because sometimes if dad says no, they'll maybe chance mummy. And if mummy has been caught off guard, mummy will maybe say yes. And then sometimes there's a problem because daddy's to come in and say, well, no.
Did you ever fight with your wife about that?
No, I don't think.
Arguments?
I don't think so.
Don't you ever?
It's married life, isn't it? It's there's ups and downs.
But have they tried to go behind your back?
I think they would. They would definitely try the both of us. If we're both in different rooms at the time, if dad said no to a sweetie, then maybe mummy will say yes. Let's chance mummy.
Actually, I would have to ask them. Actually, the question: what makes a good dad?
Yep.
Not you. I bet they would come with a few good answers, huh?
I think they would. Yeah, I'm sure they would.
Oh man. I heard you on Sunday speaking about salvation and strong values that you have, a God, having God in your life. I'm not sure we know what that means. Does a man need God in his life to live a good life, or doesn't really make any difference? Really?
So I think that's quite a big question, and I think what the bottom line would be yes, he does need God in his life, but always a but. But I think, for example, for me, so the experience that I've had in like my time in the Navy, maybe I kind of drifted away, but the God element was always still there. The God chip was always there, even though maybe it wasn't lived out quite as well as it should have been. But looking back now, I think there was a lot of.
What do you mean by the God element? You mean the fear of God, or what is it? What?
So being brought up in the family that
Yes.
he was brought up in, and then breaking away and going to the Navy and doing literally whatever you wanted to do, when you wanted to do it, because you were away, you were gone.
You were the prodigal son, maybe?
I wouldn't have went,
Somewhat?
I wouldn't go as hard as that one, no. But for example, like, to a degree, Sundays kind of lost its sting. Didn't have to go to church, didn't have to do anything, because you were this young guy who had the world at his feet and could literally do and say what you wanted. But there was great conviction in that as well. So it was okay pleasing yourself and doing what you wanted for those number of years. But God was always in the background, always working. He was always there. And maybe I chose to ignore it at times, but I was so aware that some of the things that we were doing wasn't right. And some places that we were in, we shouldn't have been in. And there was environments that we put ourselves in, that I put myself into, where you just thought, come on, Stephen, you should know better than this. You should not be here, or you shouldn't be doing this. But I think it was all experience in the walk. And what I've turned was, I am proud for everything that I've done back then. But looking back now, it was a great experience. It's probably put me to where I am now.
Do you think that sentiment that God was always lurking in the background, like he was, okay, you put him in the backseat of your car, so to speak.
Yep.
Is that your conscience really working on you? Because what I've known is that conscience is something that God placed within us. It's our compass. Shows us the true north. Shows us shows us the right path. Shows us helps us to make the difference between right and wrong, based, I guess, on the values that have been instilled in us. But not even that. It's amazing, because you see, even people that haven't had values instilled in them, conscience is put in there by God. I believe that somehow, and help them to choose right. It's something within us, intrinsically part of us, that even people that don't go to church know what's right and wrong.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it's something. So do you think that would have been always working behind the scenes, in your head, in your life? Whatever you did, that was always there. Man, watch out. This is not right, man. This is not right. And you were doing it anyway. Well, just like me. I was there.
Yeah. So for us there, definitely agree with everything you've said there. And we would, I'm recalling a time we were away. I think we were in Crete at the time, because we'd done long stints away at a time. And there was just a culture, especially in the military and more so the Navy, where drinking was like a big part, like a big hit.
Yeah.
And that everything revolved around that. And you would often find you would be in a place, and it was just the culture was just wrong for me. But I went with it. I done it, but I knew all along that this isn't right, and I shouldn't even be here. And was that possible? Was that a reason? Another reason that I chose to leave the forces? Probably yes, because the culture itself is quite damaging if you let it get a hold of you. But in the background, the conscience was it was so clear, right from wrong. And I think that just kind of stuck with me for the whole 11 years that I was there. Because what I came from to where I was then and where I am now was like three totally different pictures across that space of 20
Do you
years.
think, this is something that comes to me now, do you think that we can really shut up our conscience by not listening to it for a long period of time? Like, have you seen the Polar Express?
Yeah.
I've seen it many times with the kids, man. And there is this moment where the older you grow, you cannot hear the bells
Okay. Yep.
of Santa ringing anymore. Yeah, basically you lose your belief.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, I think it's a great movie for kids, and for adults, by the way. So, but I think, and that to me always like spoke about this. The more I ignore my conscience when it tells me, don't do this, don't do that, don't go there. It helps me choose the right path, in life. The more I ignore it, that over time dies and maybe stops talking to me, speaking to me. Do you think that can be the case?
Yep. To a certain degree, I would think that could be the case. Yep. It's like, as you're speaking, I'm thinking just now, it's like going on a diet and somebody's saying, right, we're not going to eat no chocolate at all.
Mm-hmm.
But if there's a Mars bar in the fridge, regardless what diet you're on, eventually that Mars bar is getting eaten. Whatever way you look at it, whether it gets a bite or a cut, that Mars bar is getting scoffed up. And I think, especially, I'm not sure if you're meaning like a Christian walk or not, but I think once it's there, it's always there. It's always inside. And even if you're away from the faith or for the church for 10, 15, 20 years, I think that element's always there. I'm thinking just now like an old mobile phone SIM card.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That chip's always there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And people maybe wouldn't even like to admit that they rely on it a lot more than they probably would like to admit.
Mm-hmm.
But I think once it's there,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's always there
Mm-hmm.
for me.
I do understand from what you tell me that God does play a role in your life.
Yes.
And I say it's a major role.
Yep.
Well, that leads me to the topic of church. I wanna, and we've covered a few things already. What the role of the church in society, and but there are more women than men in church, and it's something that I've been interested for some time now. And I wonder why. There are statistics, and especially they do it in America, But then across the Western world, that's the case almost every church. There are 60% women in church and 40% men. And I always wondered why there are not more men in church. Why there are only 40%? Well, I wonder what should be maybe 50-50. Should be more men in church than women. Why is it? And I often think about it. Is it our message? Is it too emotional? And then women answer to it. Is it? Don't we speak the man's language? What are we doing something wrong? And I asked this quite a few people. I wonder what you think about it.
So the question is, why is there more women in church than there is men?
Yes.
Again, personal view and personal points here. I would look it on, and to answer that, I think women, I'm going to choose my words very carefully here, but I think women are more emotional than men.
Okay.
I think they're more adaptable than men. And I think they're more maybe open to men. It could be easier for them. And by that, I mean, like, maybe if they asked a friend, look, I want to go to church on Sunday, but would you fancy coming with me? I'd imagine the female friend would probably say, okay, let's go. and then maybe they've got two for the price of one.
So they're more relational.
Yep.
Okay.
But if you were to ask a man and say, look, I want to go to church on Sunday, do you want to come? The answer would either be yes or no. There would be no, oh, really? Do we need to? I think it would just be like, probably no. And I think just for the woman to be in and around the church is a lot easier. They could probably relate and speak to more people than what the man can, because I feel the woman would be able to speak out a wee bit more and share, whereas a guy wants to keep everything tight and close.
So women are more communicative than men.
I think so. Yep. To a certain degree, though. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
To a degree.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's maybe a factor why there is more women in the church than there is men. I think the process is easier for that.
I think I agree with you. I think it's more than that, though. I come to understand that the language we use, it's not. I think we are more emotional in church than rational, and that's why, or logical. That's why look at sermons and speeches. We kind of like to appeal to people's emotions rather than their reason and logic. Look at the way sermons are put together.
Mm-hmm.
You know, especially in the Pentecostal types, charismatic type churches. Yeah, we appeal a lot to emotions, and we speak a lot to emotions. We like emotions.
Yeah.
We like to get people excited. We like to get people respond in some way or interact in some way. Yeah. And I think this is another reason that are more women than men, because women respond to emotional talk, an emotional call, an emotional interaction, and men respond to reason and logic.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay, I agree with that. Yes.
So this is another thing that so I'm not sure. I think, well, begs the question, should we change the way we prepare our sermons, our messages? Should our sermons involve more reason and logic? Explain, take me through a journey, explain to me things, I don't know. Yeah.
So for me, listen to you just now. I think the word needs to be preached and spoken the way that it's meant, and you could adapt to everyone's emotions or everyone's feelings and try and please everyone. And if you've got a congregation of maybe 20 or 30, that's probably quite easy enough to do. But when you've got a congregation of maybe 150, 180, trying to please everyone on that hour on a Sunday morning, you never will. And I think if the church wants to return and be like the salt of the earth, then it needs to kind of stop sugarcoating everything, but a good part of the bit's coming across.
So, but do you think it's the church's job to please everyone?
No.
Okay. So if it's not church's job to please everyone, then what's the church's job?
So for example, just going back there. So for example, if there's a sermon, if it comes up, the Ten Commandments, we spoke about that already today.
Okay.
So if we were to do a sermon series on that, and we get to adultery, you're going to offend people in the church.
So what?
Exactly. So you cannot please everyone.
Yeah.
And I don't think.
But I'm not looking to offend. If the message of the Bible offends you, well,
therein lies the problem.
Okay.
Not with the church.
Yeah.
But with the person. Because if that message is offending the person, then the person is probably caused the problem themselves.
Also, this is what you mean sugarcoating.
Yeah.
You don't mention the thing you should mention.
Correct.
Okay. I see. So, do you think we should be more? Well, it's self-evident, truthful, or stick to the truth of the gospel. Okay, I'm answering my own question in my own head.
Answer, yeah.
Yeah. So do you? So do you think we are afraid to speak the truth? That's crazy.
To a degree, yep.
Why is that?
I think some churches would be happy to fill the place on a Sunday morning just for the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
I am not speaking about any church in particular.
Yeah.
To get the people in through the door.
Mm.
Now, that's great, get the people in through the door. But there's a truth to be taught.
Mm-hmm.
There's stories to be told. There's a fit.
And if that truth keeps people away, then you won't say it because you want people in.
Correct.
This leads me to the next question that I want to ask you. Church attendance in UK is in decline.
Yep.
Do you think this is the cause?
Nobody wants to be offended. And people,
so do you think that's why people don't come?
um,
Because they are, I don't want to go to church to be offended.
Nobody wants to be told they're wrong.
Okay.
Nobody wants to be told what they're doing is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And what they're thinking is wrong. Everyone likes to be their own person now and to be able to do and say what they want.
Mm-hmm.
But if you come to the church,
Mm-hmm.
I think the church has got a responsibility to say, I see what you're saying, I hear what you're saying, but this is what we believe. And why do we believe it? Because it's in black and white.
Do you think the church is becoming more secular now? By secular, I mean devoid of God. That's what secularism is. Means, devoid of God, more humanistic in its nature. Let me explain. The difference between the sacred and the secular. The sacred are the things of God, and the secular are not the things of God. It's empty of God. Yeah. Secularists are, or humanistic societies put people, the man, in the center of things, and everything evolves or revolves around the human being. In a theocracy, in a church situation where it's supposed to be at the kingdom of God, where Jesus Christ rules. That's what the church is.
Yeah.
What the kingdom of God is, where Jesus rules. The church is where Jesus rules. It's an extension of the kingdom of God. Yeah. So we are becoming more secular in terms of we are pleasing more man than God.
To a degree, I would agree with that. Yes. Yep. And why, I don't know, because it boils back again. I've mentioned it a few times.
Mm.
I think it's so easy to stand up and speak on a Sunday morning and offend folk. So I think a lot of sermons has been tailored around not to offend.
Yeah, but you see, it's one thing my intention. Well, it's one thing that my intention to be to offend people.
Yep.
And it's another thing for me to have a message that offends people. I don't, like, for example, I preach now and again.
Yep.
My intention is not to offend people.
Yep.
That's not what I'm there. No, I'm to love people.
Mm-hmm.
But if the message I have offends people,
but I don't think you wouldn't be sitting on that week beforehand preparing a message that is going to intentionally offend you. You're not sitting out to offend someone.
Yeah.
But I think if we start dodging certain subjects within the Bible and what it's saying, I think we're on a slippery slope.
Okay. So what you're telling me, or this is what I understand, church is not church anymore. Generally speaking, it's not doing its job, or it's walked away from its mission, so to speak. Somewhat, yeah.
Somewhat.
So this is the downfall of it, because I'm looking back to the Church of England. I'm talking about the church as an institution now. It's failing miserably. Maybe the case is, I would say, in the next 50 years, we might not be talking about Church of England.
Yep.
Church of Scotland. So I'm not, now the Church of Christ, which is the body of Christ, never dies, because it always, what's the word? The church will never die because changes itself, is being reborn from its own ashes. Churches never dies. It moves though. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you look historically speaking, like, I'm not sure if there is one church left in the Middle East that Paul the Apostle planted or opened. The church in the Middle East moved towards the West. So there is not one there, man. So is church dying? Well, I cannot use the word dying. The local church there died, but the church doesn't die. It moves.
Yes.
There is a sense now there are certain people talking about the death of the Western civilization. Within the academia, within certain circles, they are talking about the decline and the death of the Western civilization. We might be at the beginning of it. It can take 100 or 50 years.
Yeah.
I don't know. But something I've heard people talk that the church, we think it's dying in the West, might be dying, but I don't think it's dying. It's moving. And you know where it's moving? To the south.
Okay.
Africa and South America. It's very interesting, man. The poles are changing. You know, it's interesting. Now, am I right? Am I wrong? I don't know. I've just heard other people talking. I'm always interested, you know, because when you look Ephesus and all Laodicea and all the churches of the book of Revelation are in Turkey of today. Turkey is a Muslim country, man.
Yeah.
None of them are there.
Yeah.
So it moved towards the west, but now after about what, a couple of thousand years, it moves south. I think that's what I've heard people say. If you look at the church in South America, in Africa, it's thriving. It's exploding.
You must agree that the content coming from the front, and from the front, I mean, like from the church, is becoming diluted and watered
Of course,
down.
yeah. Generally speaking, yeah, of course, yeah.
And for me, I just, it's hard.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't want to be a full-time pastor. I wouldn't want to be in that position. But I think it's so hard to get the message across. But the truth has to be told.
Okay, so what do you think is the solution to that? How can we get back to being the church that the church should be?
Well, maybe it's old-fashioned and old school for me to say it, but the truth just needs to be spoken. Quite often, nobody likes to hear the truth. And if the truth has to be spoken for the front, because a lot of people want to, throughout the week, well, that's all they have is on the Sunday. And if they don't hear it for the front, then where else do they hear it from? That's why once the world comes into the church, I think it's so hard to remove it. So if people aren't told what they're doing is wrong, or what they're doing on for example, a Saturday night is wrong, then they live a life. So what if there's millions of people around the world that think they're saved and think they're going to go to heaven, but by Bible standards, they failed. I just think it's a tough one, but I think it's one that needs to change, because for any evangelical church should be preaching Christ crucified, raised from the dead, ascended to heaven, and one day is coming again. And anything less than that is wrong.
Okay, tell me a few things that we are not talking about, just to be more concrete, more practical. So tell me, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, a few things that we should be talking about and we don't talk about.
We're in society, the church.
No, in church. Yeah,
church.
You said adultery.
There you go. Yep. So there's one. I put me on the spot.
well, here you go. The truth. The truth is not an easy thing, man.
I know. I think, I don't know what the number of points, but I think just collectively, we just need to take what Scripture is saying.
It's true, but if we don't number, then we are just talking. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So if we just talk, then so
let's deal with the issue of sin. Right?
Yes.
So the issue of sin, it's like decay. Yeah. So if you have something wrong with your tooth, you go to the dentist, get it fixed, and they're going to preserve that tooth. Now, sin has to be dealt with within the church as well. And if it's not dealt with for the front, then who deals with it? Where does it go? Now, I could sit here and list heaps of things, although on the spot I can't. If I was to sit
it's not easy, is it?
and list it, I'll be driving home in the car thinking, "Oh, I should have said this, I should have said that." But if I was to, I think the issue of sin has to be dealt with, because if people do not recognise, one, that they're sinning and continue to do it, what's the point?
Mm-hmm.
Where does it end?
Yeah. Yeah. How do you define sin? Because you mentioned that a lot. So that how do you define it? What's sin?
So anything that falls short of what the Bible standard is. So there's sexual sin, there's morality that can be sinful, there's well, disobey. Let's look at the Ten Commandments again. We're a life group, we're our house group. We've just studied the Ten Commandments in quite a bit of depth. And even if there's only 12 people in the room, everyone has a different take. And it was quite interesting just to see where people stood. But by the time we came to the end of it, everyone was kind of on a level where they accepted that the Ten Commandments should be brought into society, brought back to schools, teached, preached,
boundaries,
and understood. And just as we began the conversation, bring the boundaries in to let everyone know exactly what's expected and where they should be.
It's interesting because sin, you did mention something very important. Sin contains the idea of falling short. But what I found is in the biblical concept from Genesis to Revelation, the biblical concept is greater than that. So yes, it is falling short, but falling short from what? So the biblical concept, in the biblical concept, in the Jewish vernacular, they would use an archery term to define sin, as if an arrow will be released, and would go towards the mark, and when the arrow would miss the mark, that would be sin.
Okay.
In the Jewish thinking. Okay. So not hitting the mark would be sin. So sin, generally speaking, would be missing the mark. But in the context of biblical thinking would be sin, what's my sin or our sin as a human being, the human being, the sin of humanity, of the world, is this. Not being what he created us to be, missing that mark. And what did he create us to be, or what's the goal of creation? If you see, I cannot define that by taking a passage of scripture. I just have to think holistically within the boundaries of Genesis to Revelation, And God created us, you and me, for his glory. What does that mean? Means that whatever I think, say, and do talks about him, not of me. Basically, whatever I think, say, and do gives him glory, points to him. That's my life. And whenever my life doesn't point to him, it's sin.
Yep.
It's missing the mark. What does that mean when my life points to him? Gives him glory. That's because creation talks about him. Then the creatures that God created will talk about him. So my job is to talk about the creator, my creator, So whenever I don't do that, I miss the mark, I sin. And within that, there is everything else that you've mentioned, Ten Commandments, lying, stealing, killing, adultery, not being the husband of one woman, envy, goodness me, Paul writes in Corinthians, a big list of it, revelry, drunkenness, my goodness, you name it. Yeah. Sodomy, and you name it, it's right there. And then so that to me, it's the concept of sin. It's not being and not living up to the standard that God created me. But not even that, not being, because not living up, not being what he created me to be, to be his glory. So that's that. In that. Okay, that's what I understand in my years of studying and looking into it, because I'm interested. Why I'm interested? Because I don't want my life to be wasted.
Yeah, sure.
You don't want to waste your life. I mean, gee, man, it's short anyway. I want my life to be meaningful. I want my life to have some kind of significance. to be important in some ways, and in which ways that can be. Well, you can be somebody. You can have a role or a status within society. That will give you meaning, maybe. But it's more than that. It's more than that, because if I don't have a social status, if I am a normal Joe, how can my life be meaningful if I have a job that is not like, doesn't amass huge fortunes?
Yeah.
So if I'm regular Joe, how can my life be meaningful? And in my view, this is how it can be. It's living a life that points to God, living a life that talks about Him, not me, living a life that tells His story, living a life that whatever I think, say, and do gives Him glory. I'm going to be the best plumber, truthful. My word is going to be trustworthy. When I say something, Stephen Moore is going to say, man, Sava said it, you can take it to the bank.
Yep.
The old saying, yeah. I'm going to be, the man of one woman. I'm going to live for His glory. I'm going to be the best father.
Yep.
I'm going to be the best husband. I'm going to be the best son. I'm going to aim. What's happening is, we've become this, I don't even know, because we are failing and we are imperfect creatures, we think that it's, you know what, I fail anyway, what's the point? No, we need to be something to aim at. We need to be aiming at something. We need to have an ideal.
Mhm.
And the ideal is this: live life for God's glory, to give glory to Him.
Yeah.
So what? Well, I'm a miserable husband anyway. No, aim to be a good husband. Now you will fail here and there. You won't be perfect, but you have to aim at something. Aim to be the man of one woman. I'm not saying you're perfect, but you need to aim at something, because if you don't have something to aim at,
Definitely. Yep.
and the same goes for the girls. So that's what I think in terms of sin and falling short. So we are falling short, and we will be falling short, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't have an aim or something to aim at, an ideal to aim at. We need an ideal.
Sure. I agree. Yep, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I think you've worded it so well there, about the arrow.
Yeah.
If you're off target,
Mm-hmm.
that's what it was classed as. Yep. I.
Oh, let's leave the theology, man. Let's. I want to. I want to finish our discussion with we're talking about the future a little bit, man.
Okay.
I don't know if you are worried. I'm a little bit worried. I'm not scared, but a little bit worried.
Yep.
Maybe you are like me. I don't know. We are moving towards an interesting towards interesting times with artificial intelligence, with using less cash.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, for example, I found myself in a situation when I use my credit card like crazy. I'm lazy to take money out of the bank, to use cash. And I do have to say, this worries me somewhat. Why? Gives the powers that be more reasons to control me.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can call me paranoid, whatever, but that's what I think about it and how I feel about it. What's your stance on it?
On a cashless society, or
Cashless, AI, the future. How does the future look for you? Are you worried, afraid? What's going on?
For me personally, for my own walk, I'm not worried about the future. But looking on for my children, I am. Especially we're speaking about AI there just now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so boil that down and break up. What does that look like to make a machine as close to a human as possible? Yep.
Okay.
Is there going to be good from that? The chances are there's going to be a lot of good from that.
Mm-hmm.
Is there going to be bad from it? Yep. Is it going to happen? Yes, it's going to happen. Because I think there's plenty of big hits. We're going to make it happen. Cashless society, is it good or bad? For me, I think it's going to be bad, because I'm thinking like smaller businesses that deal a lot with cash. There's probably going to be financial penalties for all the new technology that's going to have to make it be cashless.
Okay.
And I think for the smaller guys in business, I think it's going to be a struggle and a problem. For us, it's going to be convenient. It's going to make us lazy, as you say, to not go to the bank or the cash points. But then the flip side of that's going to be all the tech companies. It's going to make all the tech to make us go cashless. We're then going to be hit possibly with big financial penalties for new media, for new tech, for new hardware that we need to, like for example, for the phone or for the chip. They can start charging whatever they want. And then once there's no cash, it's no option but to pay it if you want to spend money.
Yeah, interesting, man.
And I think, but I think to go cashless would be, I mean, let's be honest, we've managed hundreds of years with cash. Why do we need to go cashless now?
Interesting. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I don't know why. Well, it is convenient to use credit cards and your phone to pay with your phone or your watch or whatever, not to have to carry cash. Go to the bank, take it out, change, small change, whatever. So there is the convenient side of it. So this is a plus. Yeah. The inconvenient to me is, man, it's I make a contract with a bank, so the bank knows my financial situation. But I see more and more that the government creeps in.
Yep.
And there is collusion, government and banks. They come together. So whenever the government can ask the bank, what about this guy? How is he spending his money? Did he like it happened with the Canadian truckers strike?
Okay.
Maybe you've seen this on the news.
I never saw that.
Well, I not on the news, but I watched it on YouTube a little bit, and I was quite interested. So whoever helped the truckers' cause with donations and everything through those government, blocked some bank accounts.
Okay. Yeah.
So to me, is my contract is between me and the bank, not between me and the government. So if the government can have access, well, I don't want that.
Yeah.
It's not their business how I spend my money, but it seems to me that they make it their business. Now, I hope we're not going to get into any dystopian future. But then again,
who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows where it'll end?
So why did you say you are not worried for you, but you're worried for your kids? What's the difference?
Because I think I'm fairly grounded at where I am. I think I've grew up with a generation where, personally, I think so. I'm only 39.
Okay.
And I think my generation has had it the best. And by that I mean there was no we were children before the internet and tech came on the go. We grew up with inside toilets, for example, whereas a generation before, some of them never. Internet was not really off the ground when I was a kid. So I could go out and play in the streets and come home safe.
I see.
No drama, no danger.
Yes.
And I think now, from looking on for my children's generation, I think it's possibly one of the worst that there's been. Obviously, I'm not taking into consideration the world wars, etc. But I just think it's such a toxic place for them just now. I have 3 girls that have access to YouTube or kids' YouTube, and things can pop on there that you didn't really want them to see. But once they've seen it, they've seen it. And I think, and then they look up to certain role models and certain people as role models who have a massive influence on children, especially from between 10 and 15. That's quite a serious age bracket. It's make or break for the decisions that can be made in that period of time. So I think for me, I'm fairly grounded. I'm quite happy where I am and knowing the right from wrong that I believe to be truth, and looking on for my children. That's the worry for the future. Is what will these guys in 10, 15 years, what will it look like?
Interesting. I'm actually looking to the future with high expectations and a little bit of worry.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that wasn't the case for our parents and grandparents, because I'm thinking right now as I'm talking to you, maybe there is something like the clash between generations as well. There is generational change as well. So I'm not sure if there is some of that, because, like, for example, my mom is 85. We taught her how to use a mobile phone and everything. So we speak to her on WhatsApp, video chat or whatever. She uses a smart TV and everything. So all these things could have been a while ago, for them. What the heck is going on, So maybe it's a little bit of that, a little bit of anxiety caused by this generational shift, we won't manage to deal with whatever comes.
Maybe I've gave the whole tech and online thing about a negative press today, but there is a lot of good in it as well.
Of course, yes, of course.
There is so much good in, well, families can communicate around the world. I mean, you can speak to your folk in Romania. Literally, by the time you could walk to the end of the garden, and there's lots of pros for it.
Yeah,
but there is a negative as well.
Of course,
especially for children to have full access to it. I think it can be abused to a certain extent.
Yes.
Which is the worry for the future for us as parents.
Wow. Listen, I'm really happy you made the time to speak to me today, man.
Thanks for the invite, and it's been different, but it's been a good different.
I really enjoyed talking to you.
Great stuff.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you. Guys, if you enjoyed today's conversation, why not like the podcast, share it, subscribe to my channel, and until the next time, have an amazing time wherever you are. Bye-bye from now. Bye-bye.